My name is Gasia, Mikaelian, and I'm coming to you through KTVU Fox 2 News serving the San Francisco Bay Area. Today we are going to talk about all the together time the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to families. I'm happy to welcome to this conversation Sue Groner. You're the author of Parenting with Sanity and Joy, 101 Simple Strategies. Thanks for being with us, Sue.
Oh, my pleasure.
There are good and bad things that come with all this together time. I think a lot of families have been together like they've never been before.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? To some of us, that's a real gift. I mean, I had my young adult children living with us for, back home for 3.5 months and 5 months. And, all of a sudden we had these great family dinners every night. It was incredible.
Now let's talk about some of the stress if we're trying to bring some sanity and joy back to the household. My little boys, they're in 5th and 6th grade, and right when they were sent home from school very abruptly, I think back in early March, we had sort of a week of like, how does this work? And after that week of just chaos, my husband and I sat down and said, we need to figure something out here because we're trying to make the old rules work for this new situation. And that reassessment has kept happening through the past 6-7 months.
Yes. And you know what? And I believe it's going to continue to happen. And, it's a time where everyone needs to really be fluid and flexible because otherwise, you're going to just get stuck and really overwhelmed and really stressed out.
Let's talk about, you have a number of tips for parents who are looking for more sanity and joy. And number one is one of my favorite words, consistency. It almost seems that though, my boys can really do their school whenever. My work schedule, and you can tell I'm working from home, is pretty set. But other than that, I feel like I could go to the grocery store today. I could go tomorrow. I could exercise today or never. Without any natural boundaries, it can be very hard to actually get things done.
Right. And so I think it's an important lesson that we can teach our kids this year. And I think this whole year we kind of have to look at in general as what are the long-term life skills that our kids can get out of this year, and consistency exactly is one of them. And so if we help our kids figure out what the things are that they need to be doing every day or every week and help them learn to plan it for themselves, then that's going to be really helpful. I mean, I know the overwhelm that parents are feeling right now is so much because we feel like we need to be monitoring and everything that our kids are doing and sort of being the warden. And if we can get out of that and teach our kids how to handle some of these things on their own, that is a huge win for the year.
So let me pick up on something you mentioned. You don't want to be like mommy sheriff. You want to be mommy gentle guiding hand. When it comes to screen time, I and so many other families that I know, we worked so hard to keep screen time to an absolute bare minimum. As soon as school went online and my children received laptops from the school district, the world opened up to them and they went way overboard. How do you suggest parents handle a situation that was sort of thrust upon them that may be very opposite to what they'd been trying to do up to the pandemic?
Well, first of all, school online is school online. Like, we can't change that at all. And it's not fair to say, well, that's your time on a screen now. Kids need that connection with their friends. They need some downtime to play some games, perhaps, whatever it is they're using. But there's a reasonable amount of time, and that's for every family to decide on their own. However, the key is sitting down with your kids and saying, hey, now you're online with school. You still want to do this. I get it. And I understand. Let's talk about it. What do you think is a reasonable amount of time to be on screen every day? And listen to what they say. If they're setting the guidelines, they're probably going to be a little stricter on themselves because they want you to agree. And then just say, okay, let's give it a try. And when you give it a try, that also means you're responsible. Your child is responsible for learning how to monitor that time on their own. So you're not that screen warden.
I have a friend, actually, it's my co-anchor. His name is Mike, and he has 2 young children about the same age as mine. And he says that if he sees his children at the computer during the school day when they don't have to be, let's say if it's lunch, he says, you close that laptop and let's go outside and run around the block together. Let's go play some hoops in the driveway. So I thought that was a great way to sort of make the children take a break from screens, because sometimes unless you pull them away, they will sit there.
Right. In fact, another thing that you can do is, insist that they take, like, even if it's a 1-minute break in between classes, kids need that energy. They're not getting recess. Have a jump rope, or, a bowl of different little activities. Do 25 jumping jacks, do some push-ups, run around the house for 2 laps, and let them pull one out of a jar and do that little activity just to get their juices flowing, to get them moving, and their brain gives their brain a little rest.
It's like back when I was working in our newsroom at the office, I would sometimes just take a 10-minute break and just sit out, like literally outside the newsroom door. I had moved maybe 20 feet, but just, seeing the trees outside and smelling the fresh air and seeing other people walk by, it was like I was taking a vacation in the middle of my workday. So sounds like what you're suggesting is sort of along those lines. Let me pick up on something that you mentioned a little bit. Because children are home from school, their only social interaction is usually either with their parents, their siblings, or their friends on Zoom. I will tell you, Zoom play dates are nothing like the play dates of yesterday. How do you recommend that parents help their children still kind of keep those social skills, fresh?
Right. Well, the social skills are really what one gets when you're face to face. And so even though Zoom play dates aren't as good, they're better than not having it. So, if you have a young child and you're worried that they're not going to learn to share and take turns, well, each time, they're on a play date with a particular friend, they can take turns deciding what they're going to do. Maybe, you arrange in advance, they can do a craft together, they can do imaginative play. I mean, we have to be creative, but I think that face-to-face time is so important. And I recommend the same thing for older children as well. I would make sure that it's part of their schedule that they're having Zoom get-togethers with their friends where they're not on their phones. They're literally looking at each other and talking to each other. And that is so crucial.
It's pretty telling to me that we've gotten this far into the interview and only now am I asking you about academic progress. I know a lot of parents out there, love to see the A's and the B's, are really hounding their children for, where are you in your class? Let's get you a tutor. Let's get some SAT prep going. Just before we started the school year, our principal, we had an all-family Zoom call, and she said, my focus this year is on your child's social and emotional health. That is all she talked about, and it really helped get us in the frame of mind that it's not about GPA and, top 10 percentile, and it's a new way of looking at things.
You know what? Great for your school principal, I have to say. I mean, because I feel very strongly that that's the way we should all be thinking as well. And it's hard, but let's face it, you know what? This year is not going to be like regular school. And so if you just accept that right off the bat and you lower your expectations a little bit, you're going to be a happier parent. You're not going to be so incredibly worried. Everyone's in the same boat. And so everyone's going to have to play a little catch up. It's all going to be different for each person, and that's okay. And, the thing that I hear the most from parents when it comes to this academic stuff is the major fear that this is going to somehow affect their kids as adults. And that's not true. Everyone's going to figure this out. It's 1 year. They're learning other skills that are going to actually help them significantly as adults that they may not have had before. But just, everyone's going to do the best they can. And I wouldn't worry so much about the academic aspect.
Right. I joke they're all going to turn into, computer coders or IT guys and gals. You talk about raising confident and resilient children in your book. How can we really distill those two big ideas down to everyday practices?
Well, the biggest thing is that we have to allow our kids the opportunity to have some adverse experiences, because without them, they're never going to develop any resiliency. They're not going to develop coping mechanisms. They're not going to learn how to be self-reliant. And so instead of us looking at all those adverse experiences as problems that we need to fix as parents, because that's kind of how we do things usually, we should look at them as opportunities for our kids to start to develop those important skills. And then we can relax a little bit. You know, whether your kid forgot something or they didn't get their homework done or they, physically hurt themselves a little bit. These are all things that are going to help them gradually become resilient and have good coping mechanisms and problem solving skills.
For people who are very interested in what you and I have been talking about, what online resources would you like to point our viewers toward?
Check out my website. It's theparentingmentor.com. You can find my book on Amazon and bookshop.com and Barnes and Noble. It's Parenting with Sanity and Joy, 101 Simple Strategies. And I'm on Instagram giving, daily tips. That's at The Parenting Mentor as well.
Well, I think we all could use a little or a lot more sanity and joy. It's been really good talking with you, Sue. I wish you the very best through all this. And I keep telling my two little boys, we're actually very lucky to have this time together. We wouldn't have chosen it, but since it's what's happening to us, let's at least look on the bright side.
I couldn't agree more, and great chatting with you.
Thank you again. Sue Groner, Parenting with Sanity and Joy, 101 Simple Strategies.